share it with others, and that could be, just, to look for your ancestors, or more important, to look for other people that maybe share with you similar genetic profile. And if those people is much older than you, well, I really would like to be able to do it and discover that many people older than 100 years old are there alive, because they say, okay, well, if all those people are the same genetic profile than me, well, that's interesting. In fact, Sergey Brin himself tried the system, and he got very worried, because I think that his genetic profile indicates that he has a good chance to get a very, very early Alzheimer. So he better, try to enjoy life for as long as he's young. But I mean, the guy's very young, so it's probably not a big deal. So, yeah, Anvoy Chiki is the lady married with Sergey Brin. So that is not just fun. I think that is serious stuff. I mean, social computing that allow people to share their genetic profile is something that potentially could change the way we do medicine. It could really, because that could be used also for research. Doctors could use a system like this, to really have extensive clinical trial of, new protocols, new way of curing patient. So that, I think, is another thing which unavoidably is going to have an impact on society. And I'm sure, again, maybe I'm optimistic, but a pretty good one. But of course, now let's take, the more worried or the more, negative point of view. Not everything is, by definition, all the time good. So privacy is definitely in social networking a concern. So there is a lot of statement that I took around talking to my friends, and of course, privacy, can be broken. You don't know what Facebook is going to do. I mean, having all those information. They promise not to reveal it to the CIA or any other group. But just the example that students from MIT to students were able to download, just using a simple automatic script, over 70,000 Facebook profile, just as a part of an exercise, is pretty interesting. And clearly, those issues can be addressed. I'm sure they will be addressed. And there is a good area for the regulatory authorities, for the government, for the authorities to intervene. There must be rules. If there are rules, then you can probably still get the best profit from the technology, avoiding traps and avoid, the negative side. And again, maybe if Alan Greenspan would have been more careful and put, strict rules on the way, technology was used to produce those derivatives, maybe we'll not be facing the tremendous financial disaster that we're all facing today. So I remain optimistic, but maybe there is an issue for the regulatory agency to intervene and, preserve the good side of technology while avoiding, the excess or the abuses. So now we are at the conclusion, since I have 2 minutes left. So what is the impact of the future of the human society, of all what we just discussed? Okay, science, I think it can only be better using that technology. There is a slide that basically tries to reflect on how science is going to look in 2020, and definitely, leveraging all what we've described so far, it can only be do better, having a tremendous amount of computing power, the possibility to share data, the possibility to get scientists to work together. And that is going to have an impact on society, because maybe climate change is something we'll understand better, we'll be able to address better, with sensor measurement, to analyze, major events when they happen, define models to predict events, and policy and processes to cope with those. Biochemical, we already mentioned the example of what you would do, by sharing genetic information. So, by using, the technology the computer can provide us, we could really address the whole chain and really do much better in preventing medicine. So, that's what we talk today, when, having a personalized genetic medicine, and really get the people to be able to do informed consent. So really have the patient more, aware of, what the doctor is doing to him or to her, and being able to be, more informed patient. So conclusion, internet world and globalization. Well, okay, all this together, where it's bringing us? It's bringing us to a society where robots, sensor, intelligent environment are going to interact, requesting very high bandwidth and end-to-end connection to our houses, car, and our bodies. So you can imagine the vision of everybody connected to everybody else, and more data, as we are discussing. Data spread around the internet world. And of course, in your search engines, hopefully becoming more and more sophisticated to be able to cope with the increasing data volume. But how about archiving those data, okay? How about archiving? Now, social network is a new way of living. Certainly not the only one, but definitely is a new way of living with tremendous impact. And of course, some concern about privacy and also addiction. I mean, there are some people now, they don't go out from home any longer. They just stay there and they only have an artificial life. So computing brings new opportunity and scare and well-being, as we discover, as we discussed, with new discovery, new drugs, possibly a longer life or a better life. I don't think people are interested in longer life if it's bad. I mean, let's say, a longer, better life. So it's a dream society, maybe for an aging population across the world, where more and more assistance will be needed at the end of our lives. But it also could lead to a sad, lonely world, if you want, negative side. Being taken care of by robotics or by all in an intelligent home. I'm not sure that I would like to finish my last day in that way. So when cheap labor ends, computer robots could take over, but hopefully as a part of the solution, not as the only one. So let's try now to maybe, with the last few seconds, answering the original question. The developed society, the more intelligent society. Well, a more developed and comfortable world for the rich, for sure. But the digital divide, which we didn't have time to address, might still be there for the poor. So we need to make sure that by pushing this kind of society of the future, we don't exclude more and more the people for whom already having electricity every day is a problem. There are large parts of the world, even in the developed world, where the needs are basic. So we need to be very careful that if we push, social computing, whatever, internet, we don't exclude more the poor, because that could produce tremendous fractures in the society, which eventually provoke tension and explosion. So better and cheaper care as care for sure, but for everybody, I'd like to add, not just for the rich. A more intelligent society, but too much information, too fast processing can produce economic disaster, as we were just discussed with maybe some of our Greenspan misjudgment. And as often in human history, technology is essentially neutral and is left up to the government, the scientists, and the people eventually, because are the people who give money to the scientists, the people who elect the governments. So I think that we have now a challenge to understand the technology. ESPOL is definitely in a good position to be this mediator between the research, the technology, and the public. And we should all feel responsible, not all the science, all